What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch back here with another NFL rankings video. In this video, I'm ranking the top 32 tight ends in the NFL today, entering the 2021 NFL season. Before I bring you my top tight ends in football from number 32 to number 1, make sure that you do Gronk spike that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more bottom line view rankings just like this. Also, make sure to check out the rest of the playlist, as I've already ranked the quarterback position, the running back position, the wide receiver position. We're ranking all positions, all players, and all teams this offseason, so make sure you do check out that playlist. And let's get right into the top 32 tight ends in the NFL entering 2021. At number 32, kicking off the list, we have a surprise. Jordan AKINS of the Houston Texans. Many of you watching this video may not even know who this is. And you probably don't need to, but Jordan AKINS is a solid starting caliber NFL tight end. I was impressed in moments last season with his ability to get open, running his routes over the middle of the field, his ability to break tackles. He's got good size, solid speed for the position. He's nothing special, but he combines every element you would like from a tight end. Certainly had some big games, including against my Patriots. And I do think he's one of the more slept on, underrated names at this position in the league. At number 31, I have Kyle Rudolph. The reindeer comes in at number 31. Now a New York Giant, where he'll be more of a backup. For a long time, Kyle Rudolph was one of the primary options inside the Minnesota Vikings offense. He will now take a backseat to Evan Engram in this offense at tight end, but he'll add a little bit in terms of an inline tight end, while Evan Engram can kind of go where he is actually successful, which is more lined up as a wide receiver type, as a slot receiver type. And Kyle Rudolph is an inline classic NFL tight end. He's not a fantastic blocker, but he'll certainly help in that regard with the run game for Saquon Barkley. He is great in the red zone. He's been one of the primary big-time tight ends in the red zone in the league for a very long time. Kyle Rudolph is no longer a top 10, top 15 tight end, but he's still one of the 32 best. At number 30, I have another old, reliable veteran of the Indianapolis Colts, Jack Doyle. Jack Doyle, I just think, is very valuable to the Colts because of his versatility. Jack Doyle can play a little bit in the slot if you need him to, and run routes over the middle of the field and get open and make big catches. He can also play in line and block, right? And then he can also play like a little bit of fullback or in the backfield if you need to. So Jack Doyle is not the sexiest player in the league, but he's certainly a productive player and a well-rounded player. Great in the locker room for the Colts. So he comes in at number 30. At number 29, I have Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham, honestly, is one of the greatest tight ends of all time. And I don't think enough people say that or actually understand that fact. Jimmy Graham in his prime was absolutely out of this world fantastic. We saw glimpses of that last year. Jimmy Graham, I think, just from a production standpoint, would rank like inside the top 20. But because it's entering a new season and he's only getting older, and they have Cole Kmet there in Chicago, which I think he's going to be a productive player, I do feel Jimmy Graham around this spot is about right, because he's going to have some games and some moments and some plays where you're like, whoa, that's 2011 Jimmy Graham with that fantastic one-handed catch or that big jump ball grab on third down. Like, he can still do some really awesome things for an offense, whether it's in the red zone or on third down or just in a tight contested catch situation. He's still fantastic. He's still athletic enough. He's still fast enough. He can move well enough, which I thought we saw him back in that form last year, but he doesn't really block. He doesn't really contribute in the run game. That will be Cole Kmet. So Jimmy Graham, just want to say he's an all-timer, and I think he deserves that respect. At number 28, I have Chris Herndon, maybe a surprise, of the New York Jets, Jets. Chris Herndon, I think, is going to have the Adam Gase effect. And what does that mean? Adam Gase is gone, meaning this player will get better. Chris Herndon was really good as a rookie, kind of broke out. Then he's had a couple seasons with injuries, coming off of injury. But every time I watch him, he stands out as an athlete, and he stands out as a receiver on this depth chart. Now, I don't think he's been utilized correctly over the last couple of years, but I certainly see the athletic prowess that Chris Herndon has. He has very solid size, and he's pretty thick, but he also is pretty fast and can leap out the gym and is really good in the middle of the field with contested catches. I think Chris Herndon's one of the more underrated talents at this position in the entire NFL. And if he can stay healthy, get it going, gain some chemistry with Zach Wilson, I absolutely would not be surprised if he has like a 700+ yard season this year, next year, or anytime soon. At number 27, Dan Arnold. Dan Arnold is one of the tight ends in this league that I don't think anybody really knows, but I really like. Dan Arnold on the Carolina Panthers, I think, is going to be their number one tight end, replacing Ian Thomas. And we saw some real production from him in Arizona. I think Dan Arnold is an underrated athlete. He can really leap up and make great contested catches. He's got very just consistent, reliable hands, and he's a smart player. He can get open in the vacated zones. He kind of understands leverages, understands where to go, where to be, and I think that's going to be a very nice compliment to Sam Darnold, who I just brought up, was pretty productive with a guy like Chris Herndon or other tight ends throughout his time in New York. I think he'll find a home here, Dan Arnold in Carolina. At number 26, Hayden Hurst of the Atlanta Falcons. He was very productive this year in terms of just pure statistics. When you stack him up against the rest of the NFL at tight end, Hurst was actually, somewhere around the top 10. I think a lot of people expected that because he was drafted fairly early in fantasy drafts. But when you just watch the guy, you clearly see that he's not an upper echelon talent at this position. He's good after the catch, for sure. He's got great speed for the position. But outside of that, he's not really great. He sometimes will show off a quick little step or two in a route and you'll be really impressed. But then other times he doesn't really have the toughness, that physicality over the middle of the field that you like to see from your upper echelon tight ends. He's not super great as a route runner. He's not super great after the catch. He's just average. He's just an average player. And I think that's why Atlanta was okay with drafting a Kyle Pitts, even though we've seen and we think that Kyle Pitts will be more than just a tight end. I just think that Hurst has just proven that he's a nice number 2 tight end, maybe a number 1 if you're in a pinch, but he's not really going to be like a standout at this position, and just a solid athlete, but not a great overall tight end. At number 25, Irv Smith Jr. of the Minnesota Vikings. Irv Smith could be one of the breakout tight ends this season in 2021. Kyle Rudolph is gone, as I've mentioned, and I think Irv Smith made that a possibility because when he's played, when he's gotten an opportunity, when he's gotten his targets, he's produced. He's got very, very reliable hands. He's better after the catch than you would think. Solid speed, certainly faster than Kyle Rudolph. Pretty good in open space. A solid blocker overall. I think he has some versatility where he can line up, in the slot as that type of guy and be kind of like a big slot receiver for the Vikings if need be. And he can also play in line, whereas he's probably going to play a lot. So Irv Smith, I just expect this production and maybe name recognition to rise because he's going to get more opportunities this year. But he certainly already has shown that he has some talent where he can rise up this list in the coming years. At number 24, Dalton Schultz of the Dallas Cowboys. Dalton Schultz, I may surprise you here, but this guy had around 70 catches in 2020. I'm sure you didn't think that was the case. When you hear the name Dalton Schultz and the Dallas Cowboys, with all the targets they have, whether it's CeeDee Lamb or Amari Cooper, Ezekiel Elliott out the backfield, or Michael Gallup, you don't think that Dalton Schultz would have all those catches, but he really did. And it speaks to the talent of Dalton Schultz, I feel. I think he's a pretty underrated name, and a well-rounded player. Now, some Cowboys fans will fight me on the fact that Blake Jarwin was their true starter who went down with injury. Well, I'll tell you that Schultz actually proved to me that he might be better than Jarwin overall, but it's a nice problem to have if you're the Cowboys. I think Schultz is a pretty good blocker. That's where he stands out to me a lot in the run game, and even on screens and things down the field, you saw him produce there. With his hands over the middle of the field, he's got pretty good ability in his routes with quick feet. He's not super fast, but he's very tough and he's very reliable. I saw Andy Dalton throw him a ton of almost suicide type passes with 3-4 guys around him, and he's coming down with the ball. He's fearless. He'll take that hit to make a play, and that's why he had so many catches. That's why Andy Dalton trusted him, and that's why I have him this high on the list. At number 23, a guy that I think has immense potential. That is Mo Alley-Cox of the Indianapolis Colts. This guy's barely played football in his life, and he's already one of the top 23 tight ends in the world, guys. This guy, Pro Football Focus absolutely loved him last year when it was really just efficiency as a receiver. That's what it's all about for him. He showed an ability to make big plays in key moments in the red zone on third down. He has a unique skill set, a former basketball player converting. He's very tall. He's got great hops to get up there and make plays. And he's got a huge frame with a large wingspan where he can really snatch a football wherever it is. It's that basketball background. Now, I would like to see him get a little bit quicker in his feet. They did throw him a screen here and there, and I was like, he doesn't really have that type of feet, that type of movement skills, but he's real good in jump ball situations, and I do think he's going to be the primary pass-catching tight end for the next few seasons for the Indianapolis Colts. We'll see how much he can maximize that opportunity. At number 22, Cameron Brate of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Cameron Brate was absolutely Tom Brady's best friend throughout the end of the season, specifically in the playoffs, where he was able to capitalize on a lot of, I would say, easier matchups or marquee matchups for the Bucs in their offense. Because you have Mike Evans and you have Chris Godwin and you have Antonio Brown at times, you have Scotty Miller and Rob Gronkowski. Teams couldn't focus on Cameron Brate at all. So that left, maybe a safety at best, but oftentimes a linebacker where Cameron Brate is just too savvy, too quick, and too good of a route runner for those guys to guard him. And we saw consistently in big situations, Cameron Brate was making plays. Very good hands, very good in the red zone, very smart. Cameron Brate is just a very reliable NFL player, period. At number 21, Jared Cook, now of the Los Angeles Chargers. Jared Cook may be old, but he's still a great athlete. You could argue Jared Cook should be higher on this list based on recent production, but I am taking into account kind of how he finished last year, along with the fact that he is getting pretty old, but he still has good speed for the position. He's still good in the open field when he doesn't fumble the ball in the NFC divisional game, Saints fans. And I would say his weakness has always been his hands, but the thing about Jared Cook to me is like he'll have real flashy big time outings where he can really go on a tear in certain games, in certain matchups, where he can take advantage and just put up huge stats. Like you'll see a 100-yard game here, a 100-yard game there, a couple touchdowns in this game or a couple touchdowns in that game. That's the type of player and athlete Jared Cook is, where if he's on a tear, he can really eat on a defense. At number 20, Eric EBRON. EBRON, I feel, gets way too much hate. Mostly from Lions fans, to be honest with you, because it didn't go so well in Detroit, where he was drafted. Yes, the expectations, he didn't meet them. But he's really had some spectacular seasons in the NFL. He really has. And he's proven that certain moments he can be dominant as a receiver. He really can take over some games, and we saw that again in 2021 with Big Ben Roethlisberger and the Pittsburgh Steelers. There were certain games where he made huge plays. The rapport was there with Big Ben. He's going to have just as good of a season in 2021, and I just think Eric EBRON, stop hating on the guy. Okay, he's not like top 10, but he's a good player. He's a good receiver for the position, and he's a nice complementary weapon for the Pittsburgh Steelers. At number 19, GERALD EVERETT kind of reminds me of a younger version of Jared Cook. Really, he's a good athlete, good feet, good speed for the position, good after the catch, can make a play with the ball in his hands. I would say is more so a receiver than a blocker than anything. A lot of the times the Rams made Tyler HIGBEE that sacrificial blocker, especially in play action plays where they would release GERALD EVERETT as maybe a slot receiver or just that inline tight end to run some routes because they liked Everett's ability to get the ball in his hands and make plays after the catch. And I think that's what Seattle's looking for here. They're looking for that type of guy in their offense. They're looking for a third option for Russell Wilson. And I think GERALD EVERETT is definitely an upgrade from what they had. And he's one of the better overall athletes at this position. He's not super well-rounded, as I stated, but he's solid, and he could definitely have some games with Russell Wilson throwing him the ball where he really stands out as that athlete. At number 18, talking about athletes, speaking about speed, Evan ENGRAM of the New York Giants. Now, this may seem low for a guy that was voted to the Pro Bowl, but everybody that watches the NFL understands that Evan ENGRAM should not be he shouldn't have been voted to the Pro Bowl, bro. Like, he shouldn't have been. I'm sorry. Like, he's a good player. He's very fast, great feet, good route runner for the position, can create separation, can be an excellent after the catch player, but his hands were so unreliable, so inconsistent. He doesn't block at all. So those three issues overall make him a very difficult guy to trust and rank high on this list. Now, I do think he's a top 20 guy because when he's producing, and he clearly has gifts that a lot of these other guys don't have, but those elements to his game that haven't been consistent are why he's maybe a little bit lower than some other people would think. At number 17, Austin Hooper. Speaking about reliable, Austin Hooper is that guy. Austin Hooper can chip in as a third down specialist under 5 yards to 8 yards where it's just like Austin Hooper over the middle, catch, easy completion, first down. That was Baker Mayfield this year. That's what it felt like Austin Hooper was for Matt Ryan for a couple seasons there. Just 3rd and 8 or under, boom, Austin Hooper over the middle of the field, first down. He can block a little bit. He showed that a little bit more in Cleveland where he was asked to do that a little bit more for Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. I think he's going to continue to do that moving forward. But the thing with Austin Hooper is he's not like a super special athlete. That's what holds him back. He's not super fast. He's not super quick. He's a good size, but not a great size. So smart player, reliable player, great hands, but just not a special player. At number 16, talking about a special athlete with big-time potential, I still think O.J. Howard possesses that. O.J. Howard is my number 16. If he didn't get hurt last year, guys, we're talking about a guy that I think would have had 600 to 800 yards easily and would have had 7-ish touchdowns in this offense. Instead, Rob Gronkowski kind of took on more of a role for this offense. But O.J. Howard could knock up to the top 10 this year. Like, he's really that talented. He has top 10 talent. He has great speed. He has good rack ability. He has great ability to block and receive. And I just think he's a well-rounded player at this position. PFF, man, they were loving him this past year as a receiver. His actual yards per target, yards per route run was in the top 3 in the league. So that suggests that he was very, very efficient when he was on the field for the Bucs. I'd expect O.J. Howard, as long as he's 100%, to really go off this year for Tampa Bay because he's going to get a lot of easy matchups versus slower linebackers that can't hang with it. At number 15, Robert Tonyan of the Green Bay Packers. Robert Tonyan had a lot of touchdowns, and I will say this, he is one of the better red zone threats at this position. Just an uncanny ability to win jump balls and the ability to just have great chemistry with his quarterback, understand where to be, where to go, and how to get open. And that's Robert Tonyan for you. I'm not super impressed with him as an athlete, although he's probably better than you would think. He's not an excellent blocker. He's just fine. I think a lot of his stats were kind of produced because he's in a good system. He has a great number 1 receiver, and he has a great quarterback. So some of that is taken into account with Robert Tonyan here at number 15, but certainly he provided the stats that suggest that he should be maybe higher. At number 14, Tyler HIGBEE of the Los Angeles Rams. I know that I said this last year, and I had him, I think, like at number 7. He was at least in the top 10. I felt like Tyler HIGBEE was bound for a breakout year. Now, that didn't happen for him because I didn't foresee the relationship between him and GERALD EVERETT being that he was the blocker. But actually, guys, believe it or not, Tyler HIGBEE blocked more than any other tight end in the NFL in 2020. Now, that might have been because they ran the ball because they didn't trust Jared Goff, or maybe they just wanted to use 3 receiver sets and mix in Tyler HIGBEE here and there and put GERALD EVERETT in those pass catching situations. But to me, Tyler HIGBEE's always been the better tight end between the two of them. I don't think he's the better athlete, but I just think he understands the nuances better. I think he's equally as good after the catch. And I do think Tyler HIGBEE, for a long time, he's reminded me of a little bit of a young Travis KELCE. So I think it is time for him to break out. It is time for him to have a big year. And I wouldn't be shocked with Matthew Stafford now, who's always been good with tight ends, if he does become a top 10 tight end. At number 13, Logan Thomas of the Washington football team. Yes, the former quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals comes in here at number 13. It's been years since he was that quarterback. He's transitioned to tight end when he was in Buffalo, and then he finally made his way to Washington, where we didn't really know what the tight end situation was going to be like, and Logan Thomas, man, he just shows up. And obviously he's a great athlete. He's got good speed. He's got real good understanding of just getting open because he's a former quarterback. So he understands defenses and concepts very well, so he can get open. And I felt like he had some games where he was nearly unstoppable. I know that's kind of weird to say about a former quarterback. And I guess the same thing kind of hurt Julian Edelman for a couple of years before we finally bought into how good he was. Maybe that's the case with Logan Thomas, but the guy is legitimately a good tight end, especially catching the football. And you'd be surprised, but he blocked more than I thought he would, because I thought he was strictly just kind of a pass catcher and an athlete. But no, he actually did produce as a blocker as well. So Logan Thomas is a legitimate number 1 option at tight end, and to me, a top 15 tight end in the league. At number 12, Noah Fant of the Denver Broncos. Noah Fant is one of the top athletes at this position. I would say he's at least in the top 3, maybe 4 at this position, but spectacular speed, very good size and physicality, can block well enough, and he showed that from college to that transition to the NFL, where he got better as a blocker this year, good after the catch, and some spectacular catches this year. Some highlight reel catches. I think he's super under the radar because TJ Hawkinson had his breakout year, and Noah Fant is that other guy from the same draft class where we were comparing the two all throughout. But Noah Fant, I think year 3 is the time to take that huge step forward where he really has that talent to become something special. The thing with Noah Fant is, and I think he's overcome it so far, is he's not in a good situation. He's not in a great offense. There's a lot of other receivers around him that are talented, and his quarterback isn't very good. So I just feel like if he was in a quarterback who utilized the tight end better and just a better quarterback overall, I think he would be awesome statistically and put up big time stats year after year, because he does have that sort of talent, but I just don't think so far he's been given that opportunity. At number 11, Rob Gronkowski. Now, with Gronk, I considered Gronk nearly for number 5, so this is how close Gronk is still to being an elite player at this position. The thing I just kind of came back to was Gronk wasn't very good at the beginning of the year, which is understandable because he was getting back into football shape. He wasn't playing all the snaps. A lot of the time he was playing as a blocker more so than the receiver, and that's where he's still one of the best tight ends in the game. He is perhaps the best blocker at this position still. It's one or the other between, I think, him and Nick Boyle is one of the others that I'd throw out there, but he's not really a receiver. He's just a blocker. So Gronk is not only, that's why he's the greatest of all time, he was one of the greatest, if not the greatest receiver, but also the best blocker. And that's kind of Gronk for you. I think he's dipped in terms of his athleticism, his ability to avoid tackles and break open plays, and his speed has declined. But he still looked real good at the end of the year in moments when they needed a play, especially in the Super Bowl. I mean, phenomenal. He had huge games this year, like versus the Packers, where he had over 100 yards, and the Lions, where he had 2 touchdowns. Down the field, big plays. Gronk missed a few opportunities for more touchdowns last year where he may be able to capitalize this year if he is that wee bit faster, that wee bit in better shape, where just off the hands here and off the hands there, where old Gronk would have made that play, they would have scored a touchdown, they would have converted on 3rd down. That's maybe what Gronk's missing a little bit, but he's still real good. You could argue he's easily top 10. You could argue he's maybe top 5 because of his well-rounded nature. But the fact he's getting older, the fact he's kind of a complimentary player, and he doesn't see the same doubles and matchups he used to, I think that does help him still be productive today. Entering the top 10 at number 10, Jonnu Smith, the first of 2 tight ends of the New England Patriots that will arrive on this list. Jonnu Smith could be much better than 10, but we just really haven't seen the full potential and the full maximum usage of what Jonnu Smith could be, because that exact word, usage, Jonnu Smith hasn't had a lot of it in terms of as a receiver. I mentioned earlier that Tyler Higbee had the most block attempts in the league at the tight end position. Well, Jonnu Smith was right there at number 2. So Jonnu Smith contributed to a lot of run blocks this past season, and they would mix in Anthony Firkser a little bit as a receiver, who's their new tight end in Tennessee, who's not on this list. But Jonnu Smith, I think, because he was used as a blocker and he's used a little bit like as an athlete where he gets the ball on screens and things, Tennessee never utilized him enough as just a receiving option to let him run routes and get open, or put him on the outside, where I think that's where he's going to be used in New England, and I think he's really going to break out this year. I think New England, Josh McDaniels properly know how to utilize tight ends. I think Cam Newton knows how to utilize a tight end, and Jonnu Smith is too special of an athlete to not be in the top 10. He is the fastest tight end in football. He has very good feet, very good yards after catch ability, actually very good contested ability when you just throw him on the outside like we saw in that game versus Baltimore a couple years ago. He has that sort of ability to just win a one-on-one. He's not the most refined player. He's not the best route runner. But the thing is, we also haven't seen him do it a lot. So it's kind of like if you think this guy's so good and so athletic and so talented, you have to rank him in the top 10. But then you also don't have the production to go along with it, because I just don't think he's been rewarded the opportunity to. And I don't really understand why, even though he's shown that he's efficient with those opportunities. So I think in New England, he will at least be in the top 10, maybe higher come next year. At number 9, Mike Gesicki of the Miami Dolphins. Gesicki is arguably a top 5 receiver at this position in the league. And I did not understand how good Mike Gesicki was as a receiver until I went back and watched him in preparation for this list. But Durkant and Alter were telling me how good he was, but I kind of had this preconceived notion of Mike Gesicki as a route runner, as a player, as a tight end. Now, his faults are clear to me, and they still reside. He doesn't block. He doesn't block at all. He's not good at it. He doesn't do it. He's a big slot receiver. That's what he is. But if you're just taking him for the receiver, he's really good. I mean, he's got real good feet. He's got really good route running skills that I think are in the top 5, because he's got rare quickness for such a big human being. He's got real good just wingspan to catch any football. He provided that he was basically the number 1 option for a number of weeks last year and still got open on tough defenders. So Mike Gesicki is very talented as a receiver. I think he would enter my top 5 if he was a better blocker, because as a tight end, I expect you to be able to do both. So it's tough to rank him because of that. Now, I could see why you maybe rank him a little bit higher. I could see why you rank him a little bit lower, but I do think that he is underrated as a pure receiver. He's very talented, and I think Tua should utilize him more this year in the middle of the field. At number 8, Hunter Henry of the New England Patriots. The second New England Patriots tight end to enter this list. Hunter Henry is absolutely better than I even thought once the Patriots signed him. I didn't realize how good Hunter Henry was. Like, I knew he was good. Obviously, he was a first-round player. Obviously, he's put up stats and numbers, and he's been productive for Phillip Rivers and Justin Herbert. But I think Hunter Henry is real good, like really good. He can block pretty well. He's got really good, refined route running ability that I think is definitely top 10. He's a good athlete. He's got great overall situational understanding of defenses. He's very smart, but he also great just overall contested catch ability in the red zone, where I think he'll be utilized a ton for the Patriots. He's really going to stand out there, and he's just super reliable on those big situations for the Chargers in the past. I don't think he was really utilized super well, but he was just so talented that he made it work. I really think he has the ability to be a top 5 producer at this position, because he does kind of have Mike Gesicki-like type of route running ability, but also a little bit more capacity to block. So Henry's real good. He needs to stay healthy, and I think he'll be one of the primary options for the Patriots in the passing game this year. At number 7, TJ Hockenson of the Detroit Lions. TJ Hockenson had a breakout season for the Lions at number 7. Now, some people may say, Mitch, why isn't he top 5? Look at his numbers. Look at his yards. Look at those catches. But I'll say this. TJ Hockenson got a lot more production because Kenny Golladay was not there. So Matthew Stafford had to throw to somebody. Matthew Stafford has really shown the capacity to really make tight ends better than they are. I feel in the past, go back to like Brandon Pettigrew. But he's good. He's definitely good. TJ Hockenson is good. Don't get me wrong. He's solid after the catch. He's a solid blocker. He is solid in terms of his route running overall. He's, I think, a pretty good athlete. And overall, I think he has an ability to get better. Like, you just saw the beginning for TJ Hockenson this year. So if you wanted to rank him a little bit higher because of that, then I could see that. But I don't really see special in him either. I see a guy that's really good in a number of areas. He checks the boxes, right? But he doesn't really stand out in any category. So that's maybe why he's number 7, not number 6, number 5. But Hockenson, breakout season. We'll see if he can come back next year and add to what he's done with Detroit early in his career. At number 6, Mark Andrews of the Baltimore Ravens. Mark Andrews is arguably the best contested catch tight end in football. This guy is absolutely spectacular at making ridiculous grabs with people all over him. Now, he also does have drops, and that's because Lamar Jackson just chucks the ball up to him and hopes he catches it. Mark Andrews has the capacity to make superb grabs. One hand, over the top, the head, in double coverage type plays. And this is what I'll say about Mark Andrews. He's a solid blocker. He's asked to do a lot of it with Baltimore, but he's a great, great receiver. And he always sees a top priority from a defense, whether that's a double team, a legit safety, whatever it is. Andrews is consistently covered with the defense's top players because they don't have a lot at receiver. So that's what I take into account with Mark Andrews. He's also heavily relied upon to make plays for Lamar Jackson because he's one of the only guys. So that helps him and somewhat hurts him in my mind because, yes, he's going to have better stats because of that, but also he's going to have better defenders and he's going to have more attention because of that as well. So Andrews is real good. I just really love the ability to make plays over the middle of the field, the toughness and that red zone capacity and ability that he's shown over the past 2 seasons. Entering the top 5, maybe the shocker, is Dallas Goedert of the Philadelphia Eagles. I think Dallas Goedert is low-key one of the most refined and well-rounded tight ends there is in the game. Dallas Goedert is one of the league's best run blockers, period, over the last couple of years. And when he's played, he's shown that he is also an excellent receiver, especially when it comes to breaking tackles in the open field. I think he's going to have his best season yet this next season because I don't think Zach Ertz is going to be around. I think he's been in the shadow of Zach Ertz, and Zach Ertz isn't good anymore. He didn't even make this list, and I think he didn't make it for a reason. Dallas Goedert is an excellent, excellent athlete. I mean, real good leaping ability, good speed. He actually threatens a defense down the field, which is rare for a tight end. He's got great size, great strength, all of it. I mean, he has everything I want from my tight end. The only thing he hasn't shown is elite production. And he'll do that this year, I feel, and prove to you that he is top 10, top 5 tight end. At number 4, yes, he's a rookie, but Kyle Pitts is a special rookie. This isn't an ordinary rookie. This is a special player. Kyle Pitts is one of the most rare breeds of football player I've ever seen on film from the college level. He has amazing ability to run routes for this position, for his size. He has superb quickness and lateral agility, and that's what separates him in my mind. Yes, he can catch the football well. Yes, he can make contested plays. Yes, he can run, but his lateral agility is insane. He has slot receiver type of lateral movement, but he's in the body of a tight end, and that's what makes him a top 5 tight end before ever taking a snap in this league. At number 3, Darren Waller. I just talked about Kyle Pitts. Perhaps the guy that Kyle Pitts really is like the most is Darren Waller in the league. Darren Waller is perhaps the most underrated, underappreciated weapon in the league. Because he's not a receiver, people don't understand how good he is. He's the best weapon on the Raiders by far, especially with Nelson Aguilar gone. By far. He lines up outside. He gets the ball after the catch. He can line up in the backfield. He can run the ball if you want. He can line up in line. He will block, which he did a lot last year. Kind of low key because you don't really think of Darren Waller as that type of guy, but he can be that guy. I think he's excellent in his shallow routes just to catch the ball and move up the field. He's good on the outside, line him up on a corner. He can burn a corner or he can jump over a corner. He's really good. Like, you could argue he's the best in the league. I mean, seriously, you could. If you put Darren Waller in Kansas City, you could argue he would produce more than KELCE in Las Vegas. Almost said Oakland. You really could. So, he's that good. That good. At number 2, George Kittle of the San Francisco 49ers. Personally, when George Kittle plays and is 100%, to me, he's the most dominant tight end because of his ability to dominate in all facets of the game. He is a rare breed after the catch. Maybe the best receiver, period, after the catch in the league. He's an excellent blocker. He has great speed. He's a good route runner. He is phenomenal. Okay, George Kittle is phenomenal. But he's been hurt, and that availability has moved him to number 2. He was number 1 last year for me, number 2 now. And because the number 1 guy had such a phenomenal year, I can't put him at number 1. But Kittle is great. I can't say anything more than the guy is an absolute stud that can take over a football game in any fashion and any form at any time. My number 1 tight end is, of course, Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce is one of the best football players in the NFL. He is one of the best route runners of all time at his position. He has a unique, nuanced capacity in that realm that I've rarely seen. You know, maybe only Tony Gonzalez really possesses that type of talent and ability. And really, every single week he shows up and makes plays. Every single week, game after game, week after week, catch after catch, he's there. Third down, he's there. Red zone, he's there. Big play, he's there. Screen game, he's there. Vertically, he's there. I mean, everything you want from a tight end. He's not as good of a blocker as Kittle, but I do think he's a little underrated in that regard. Kelce's just really good, really quick, and still a big human being for that quickness, which makes him real special. KELCE is the best right now, and it's because he's been able to prove it over the last few seasons. those are my top 32 tight ends in the NFL today. Let me know your top 32 in the comment section below. Let me know what your top 5 is, your top 10 is, your number 1 is. That's my list. Hope you enjoyed. Gronk, spike that like button, subscribe for more rankings just like this. Make sure to check out the other rankings in the playlist. It's Mitch. Peace.